A friend of mine almost paid $300 at a shop for a weak AC issue. Before he handed over the keys, I suggested one quick step he could do himself, costing under $10. 5 minutes later, he turned the car on, and suddenly the vents blasted freezing air. He didn't buy refrigerant, didn't replace the compressor, nothing fancy. The fix was hiding inches away from his glove box, ignored for years. In this video, I'll share exactly what I showed him and how you can do it too today. The hidden blockage killing your AC. What if the biggest reason your car's AC feels weak has nothing to do with refrigerant levels and nothing to do with the compressor? Most people jump straight to those parts when the vents stop pumping out icy air, because those are the big expensive pieces everyone talks about. A compressor is complex, refrigerant is mysterious, and when your car doesn't cool properly, it's easy to assume one of those must be to blame. But here's the problem. When you chase those answers first, you overlook something far simpler that can make your AC feel like it's on its last breath, even though it's mechanically fine. Think about this for a second. You hop in your car on a blazing hot day, crank the fan dial to the maximum setting, and instead of feeling a blast of cold air, you get a weak stream that feels tired before it even leaves the vent. On the surface, your AC system might be running, the compressor could be kicking in, refrigerant might be at the proper level, and the blower motor is spinning. So why does the cabin still feel like you're running the heater? What's suffocating that airflow? The answer hides where almost nobody thinks to look, because it's not flashy, it's not expensive, and for a lot of drivers, they don't even know it exists. That overlooked piece is the cabin air filter, the lungs of the entire cooling system inside your car. If those lungs are blocked, the AC is literally choking for breath. Air still tries to push through, but instead of rushing freely through the vents, it squeezes through like water trickling out of a clogged garden hose. Over time, every drive you take piles on more dust, pollen, leaves, automotive fumes, cigarette smoke, and tiny debris. Layer after layer settles into that filter until it forms a dense mat that no air wants to move through. Sitting behind the glove box out of sight, it quietly loads up with every particle you've driven past for years, robbing your AC of its ability to breathe. Imagine running a sprint while covering your mouth and nose with a thick cloth. Each breath gets harder, and even though your lungs are fine, you're still gasping for air. That's your vent system right now if the filter hasn't been replaced. The compressor may pump with perfect strength, the refrigerant may cycle flawlessly, but none of that matters when the air can't reach you. This isn't hypothetical either. Plenty of drivers have spent hundreds replacing compressors, thinking they were at the root of the problem, only to discover later that the compressor was never the issue. The only thing standing between them and freezing air was a filter so dirty it looked like it had been dragged through the bottom of a vacuum cleaner bag. One story stands out of a driver who complained for 2 summers that his AC was dying. He had shops test refrigerant, inspect hoses, and even replace the blower motor. Nothing helped. Finally, during a routine oil change, a mechanic happened to check his cabin filter. It was black, brittle with dirt, and full of leaves. Replacing it took seconds, cost less than a fast food meal, and the customer's vents blasted refreshing cold air immediately. 2 summers of frustration, gone in 5 minutes. That's how much impact this hidden blockage can cause. When you understand this, the signs make sense. Weak airflow isn't always about temperature. It's about restriction. If the cold air can't physically rush past the filter, it feels warm and ineffective because it dribbles out instead of blasting. So while it's tempting to worry about refrigerant leaks or failing compressors right away, the first place you should look is the simplest one. Because the shocking truth is this: letting your AC breathe freely often solves the problem. And here's the surprising part. It's not just about knowing the cause. It's about how ridiculously easy the fix actually is. The 5-minute fix mechanics don't tell you. Could one of the easiest fixes for your car's air conditioning be something mechanics don't bring up because it isn't profitable? The average driver hears AC problem and automatically sees dollar signs. Many expect a repair bill that swallows up hundreds of dollars, sometimes even more, and they feel cornered into paying for complicated parts and labor. But there's a reason shops rarely start by pointing to the simplest, cheapest solution. If your issue can be eliminated with a $10 part in 5 minutes of your time, that's not a job a mechanic can bill for hours of labor. Here's the part people overlook. Mechanics work in a business model where most of the earnings come from large, visible repairs. Big-ticket jobs like compressors, condensers, or evaporators give shops steady profit margins. In contrast, cabin filters are inexpensive, unglamorous, and easy to replace yourself. Recommending one doesn't promise the same income as diagnosing refrigerant leaks or swapping out machinery. So while a technician may not lie to you, they have very little incentive to highlight something that eats into the perception of serious AC repair. Think about it. When was the last time a shop eagerly pointed you toward a $10 part instead of a $500 one? How to spot when your filter is strangling your AC? The reality is that almost every vehicle built in the last couple of decades has a simple filter hidden inside. In most models, you'll find it tucked away behind the glove box. A smaller portion of cars position it under the dash. Still easy enough to reach if you know where you're looking. The design is meant for quick access because automakers expect you to change it regularly, just like you would oil or wiper blades. Yet many drivers pass years without touching it. Why? Because the filter doesn't demand attention until it clogs, and by then, you're convinced something else in the system has failed. Now here's where it gets astonishingly simple. Once you drop the glove box panel or slide out the small cover, the filter practically falls into your hand. Most require no screwdrivers, no special tools, just a quick slide and lift. What you'll see next will probably make you shake your head. A fresh filter looks like crisp white pleats, almost like an accordion. A neglected one? It's gray or brown, with layers of dirt pressed into the folds. Some come out with leaves stuck inside. Others look like they've doubled in weight from all the dust. And some even emit a smell the moment you touch them. It's as if you were holding a miniature vacuum bag filled to the brim. The transformation between the two is dramatic and makes it hard to believe something this small can stall an entire climate system. Swapping in a replacement takes less time than ordering a coffee. Slide the old one out, line the new one up so the airflow arrow points in the right direction, then push it into place. That's it. No hoses to disconnect, no electrical parts to worry about. For many popular makes like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, a common option people use is the Fram CF10285, which happens to fit a large number of vehicles. It's cheap, it's widely available, and it delivers the same performance as what you'd get directly from the dealer at a fraction of the price. Here's the payoff. As soon as that unclogged filter is seated, the difference is immediate. Suddenly, you're not straining to feel the air. It rushes through with strength, carrying the cold that the system was producing all along. Without refilling refrigerant, without buying a compressor, you've turned your car into a freezer again. For less than a dinner out and the time it takes to put on your shoes, you've restored power, airflow, and temperature all at once. And now that you see how quick and simple this task is, the next question becomes clear. How can you recognize the signs before the filter ever gets this bad? What if your car has been giving you hints for months that the AC is struggling, but you just didn't notice? It's easy to ignore the early signs because they feel minor at first, but they slowly get worse until your whole system seems broken. Drivers usually chalk up weak cooling to low refrigerant or a bad compressor, but the reality could be staring you right in the face every time you reach for that fan dial. Let's start with the most common symptom, weak airflow. On max fan speed, your dashboard should blast a steady stream of air that makes it obvious the system is working. When the cabin filter starts clogging up, that steady push turns into a trickle that feels like it's struggling to reach you. You might crank the fan to full and still be underwhelmed by how little air actually comes out. It's almost like someone put a piece of tape over your vents. Because the temperature can still be technically lower than the outside air, many drivers mistake this weak output for a failing system, when in reality the system is fine. It just can't breathe. Another red flag is the smell. A fresh filter doesn't just allow more air through, it prevents the inside of your car from taking on musty or sour odors. When a filter is crammed with dust, moisture easily lingers in the fibers, and that damp environment can spawn bacteria and even mold. If you or your passengers notice a smell the moment the AC kicks on, that's your clue. Some people even report sneezing or coughing after blasting the vents, which is another sign the filter isn't just clogged, it's become unhealthy. In that state, every drive is pumping contaminants directly into the cabin, and you breathe them without realizing. But before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Cleaner air while saving hundreds. The uneven flow of air is another classic signal. Maybe the vent on the driver's side feels weaker than the one on the passenger side, or a vent you usually rely on feels like it's barely moving any air. That happens because the packed filter doesn't let air spread evenly to the ducts. Sometimes you'll even see little puffs of dust or debris actually blowing out, which means the filter is so full it can't contain the buildup. Now think about how a clean filter feels. Air whooshes out with volume and strength, immediately cooling the space around you. The system doesn't smell stale, and the breeze feels crisp. A bad filter immediately exposes itself when compared back to back. Volume drops, temperature feels inconsistent, and freshness is non-existent. The contrast can be night and day, even if you've simply forgotten what normal is supposed to feel like. There's a story of a driver who endured 2 summers of frustration. Convinced the AC was failing, he paid to replace the compressor, an expense into the hundreds. The problem didn't go away. Shops ran refrigerant tests, added dye to look for leaks, and replaced hoses, but the vents still barely produced air. Finally, during a basic inspection, someone slid out the cabin filter. It was cake black, practically solid. 1 new filter later, and the AC suddenly felt like new. All that money wasted because the simplest step was overlooked. Ignoring this filter doesn't just mess with comfort, it also risks damaging other parts. A clogged filter makes the blower motor work overtime, straining to push air through a barrier that shouldn't exist. That extra workload can shorten the motor's life and lead to an expensive replacement, which costs many times more than a filter. It's like forcing yourself to breathe through a straw every day. You might get by for a while, but the stress is undeniable, and eventually something breaks down. The point is clear. Spotting these red flags early can save you frustration, money, and even protect your health. That $10 filter isn't just a repair, it becomes prevention against bigger bills and cleaner air at the same time. And once you start noticing the signs, you'll realize this goes beyond just comfort. It's also about the air you breathe every single time you drive. What if the AC fix you've been overlooking didn't just make your car colder, but actually made it healthier too? Most people think of the cabin filter only as something that affects how strong the air blows, but it plays an even bigger role. Every time you turn on the fan, you're not just moving air around, you're breathing it in. And the condition of that filter quietly decides whether you're inhaling fresh, clean air or stale, contaminated air filled with things you'd never want in your lungs. A lot of drivers get caught up in temperature alone. They chase icy cold air, measuring whether the system is dropping the cabin fast enough on a hot afternoon. But what they miss is that cold doesn't always mean clean. A neglected filter turns your AC system into a hidden trap for pollen, dust, and mold spores. That same air, instead of feeling refreshing, may be carrying particles that irritate your throat, tickle your nose, and leave you feeling congested after a drive. The invisible side effect of poor filter maintenance is that you might think you're cool and comfortable, but your body is quietly paying the price each time you breathe. The trouble starts when debris builds up and traps moisture inside the filter's layers. That mix becomes the perfect environment for bacteria and mildew to grow. Once the colonies form, every blast of air spreads the musty smell and microscopic organisms right into your cabin. That's why many people notice their AC system develops an odor that seems to appear out of nowhere. The truth is, the filter is no longer holding contaminants back. It's releasing them every time the fan runs. By contrast, a fresh filter immediately reverses this problem. It restores the AC system's ability to trap unwanted particles, stripping dust and allergens out of the airstream before they ever reach you. To put it simply, a dirty filter doesn't just block airflow, it becomes an active source of pollution. A clean one removes that danger from the equation in minutes, and the impact is obvious right away. The smell disappears, the air feels lighter, and the vents start producing that crisp, clean breeze you may have forgotten your car was capable of. Many people describe it as the vehicle feeling new, again after a simple swap. What looked like a mechanical problem turns out to be one small part silently undermining both comfort and health. Here's a relatable story. A driver dealt with constant headaches on morning commutes and assumed it was just stress or dehydration. The turning point came when passengers started complaining about the car's musty odor whenever the AC was turned on. A quick filter inspection revealed material so greasy and black, it barely resembled a filter at all. After replacing it, the difference was instant. No odor, no dust blowing around, and the headaches disappeared. Something that had undermined daily life for months was gone with one inexpensive step. This small act saves money in a bigger way too. When airflow is restored, you're not forcing the blower motor or compressor to work harder to compensate. That means less wear on expensive parts and fewer trips to the shop for diagnostics that lead nowhere. Over time, that alone can save hundreds. Add to it the fact that many drivers report their AC feels 5 to 10 degrees colder within minutes of fitting a new filter, and the value becomes undeniable. You restore freezing air, protect your health, and avoid unnecessary bills all at the same time. So for under $10, you don't just upgrade comfort, you upgrade the very air you live in inside your car. Cooling and cleaning work hand in hand, transforming both the feel of your ride and its long-term reliability. And as surprising as it sounds, your car's comfort doesn't depend on how much money you throw at it, but on knowing where to look first. The real secret to freezing air inside your car wasn't about topping up refrigerant or spending hundreds on new parts. It was simply about letting your AC breathe again through a clean cabin filter. This small step restores airflow, boosts cooling power, and keeps the air fresh without draining your wallet. So check your filter today. It takes minutes, costs less than a drive-through meal, and you'll feel the difference instantly. Don't wait until hot air and big repair bills leave you frustrated. The next time your AC feels weak, remember, the answer might be sitting right behind your glove box. That's it for today. If this got your AC breathing again, tap like and subscribe for more safe DIY fixes. Next up, 11 cheap parts. No one replaces that destroy engines. Fast, small swaps that prevent big failures.